Okay, Monday morning, June 13th. I'm just coming back from the gym. I had an interesting talk with a friend of mine, John, who used to live here in Lviv, about, his thoughts about coming back. And basically he shared some sentiment I shared the other day about, when the investments will resume and reconstruction will resume. And basically he said when Putin is completely deposed and all lands are restored, he would come back. And that brings us to, and you can watch the previous video, I get into the details of that, about the limbo we're living in. But what happens after? How do we rebuild the country? Let's say 2 to 5 years from now, Putin has been deposed or dies or just quits, or comes to his senses. What do we do? How do we rebuild the country? Certainly we don't want it to be like it was before. It was a bit corrupt and lacked some transparency, bureaucratic. And so this is a thought I've had for some while, and now it's really been reinforced by watching the series The Crown. But I think Ukraine could benefit from having a royal family, namely taking Princess Madeline from Sweden and appointing her as the Queen of Ukraine and giving her decision-making, authority or ability to override the parliamentary decisions for 20 years, for the greater good. And maybe there could be some outside body to validate those decisions. And the reason why I say this is there has been, before, it has been fairly corrupt here. Money from projects would disappear, and getting things done here is pretty hard. And this is a problem with elected governments where people are only in for short periods of time or always concerned about getting elections, is they make very short-term decisions quite often. I mean, we see this in America, and I would never want a royal family in America, but one of the weaknesses is like 2 projects I can name is like there was this Boston Tunnel project, and it took generations to finish because one mayor would be for it and keep it going, and the next mayor would stop it, and even one of the mayors started filling it in. And then they finally, somewhere they came to their senses and decided to finish this project, but it took like 20-30 years. They were talking about this project when I was in high school, and that was a long time ago. So that is something where you need some kind of leadership with a longer term vision, when you have these kind of large scale infrastructure projects that need budgets over many administrations. And then the other one was the super collider in Texas. That was started by the Clinton administration. Then the Bush administration stopped it, and they ended up digging a hole in the ground that costed $2 billion. And that could have brought a lot of science to the US and really advanced particle physics and energy research. But this is like one of the weaknesses now. America can deal with that, but I think Ukraine would benefit from, having a royal family where the prime minister consults, Queen Madeline of Sweden. What is like behind a royal family? Well, these are families that have had a hell of a lot of money and fame for generations, so they have like a gift that they can think in a different way about life. They think in a bigger way. I'm concerned about paying the bills every month and keeping my job, and I have a lot of short-term concerns, but I can't even imagine if I was freed from all that, I would think in a more strategic way. Now, when I watched The Crown and you saw how like Prince Philip and when she was Princess Elizabeth, they traveled all around Australia and all around the world and met all these different tribes, and they got some perspective. And even Prince Philip ordered a boat to take a guy back to his island. So you get this benefit, if you're really wealthy, to see the world, and also, a lot of eyes on you. And this paid back later, when, the Queen of England, she consults with all the prime ministers, and she doesn't really give a strong opinion, but she gives some guidance. But when it came to Margaret Thatcher and the South Africa apartheid policy, she really took a stand, and she was the informal communication behind the scenes to kind of push the policy to take Britain away from South Africa and kind of, Britain was the only country that wasn't divesting at the time. So they can do that too. Now, some of the red pill people will call this global conspiracy, lizard people, and all of this. But I think it's actually been, Western royal families have actually been a good thing. We also saw this in Norway. And now the Norwegian royal family comes from Denmark originally. So, it's not unprecedented if the Ukraine imported a royal family from Sweden. And I'll tell you why I choose Sweden later after this Norway example. But during World War II, Quisling, a prime minister that was pro-Hitler, got elected in Norway. And the King of Norway went to England and declared the government illegitimate, and didn't give it the support and the people, so it can call into question a bad elected government as well, which a lot of European countries are vulnerable to due to all this nationalism and everything going on, which is, now I'm seeing the light of day. I used to think it was okay, but now I'm seeing the light of day that this is a Russian divide and conquer strategy. But the royal families can also, like I say, take those kind of decisions and keep the country on the right track if some accidental maniac gets elected or something. So now the example I was coming back to is like, why choose a Swedish royal? Well, as we all know, Sweden is like a very good social democracy, very good country for women's rights. For children, it's a great example. I mean, even Norway follows the Swedish example, and I mean, a lot of what's in Norway is modeled on what's in Sweden. I mean, there's some originality things too in Norway, but mostly the Scandinavian democracies. I think Sweden had set the precedent, for this social democracy, and I think that's a system that I think Ukraine would want to imitate more so than America or England or Poland or something. To be, they have the resources. They could be like Norway, nationalize the resources and then, use the money to build a welfare state. And I think you would need a experienced Scandinavian royal to do that. And also Princess Madeline, she's married to a New York investment banker. So he could bring the financing and the money and sell the ideas. Like, Ukraine could implement hyperloops in the rebuilding to interconnect the cities. The distances are pretty far here. It's like Ukraine is like the size from, I think it goes from New York to Chicago, but the roads are much slower. So you can't do the drive in a day like you would do in America. I think it takes a good 2 days to get from one side of the country to the other side. And if you're on the main roads, and if you're going to like some smaller town, good luck. So yeah, they could do some innovative infrastructure, rebuilding the airports. I would like to see the Hyperloop, create some structures for people to want to move here, embrace the diversity. I mean, we hear all these bad things about Sweden, but overall it's actually a pretty good place. When I was in Norway, I was working for Swedish companies and go to Sweden all the time, and it's not like they say. It's not like the right-wingers say, I mean, you might have some craziness in Stockholm every once in a while, but overall, Sweden's a pretty pleasantly boring place. Everything works and things are actually chill most of the time. But I think that would be good, and then the prime ministers, the future prime ministers of Ukraine would have to consult with the Queen, and get advice, and she would set an example for women here. Right now there's a lot of disparity in pay and a lot of sexism in the workplace, things like that going on. So it would take Ukraine into a more Western direction for sure, and maybe even become an example for the rest of Europe. They have a lot of ability to do big things here. This husband of Princess Madeline, the investment banker, he could probably get Boeing to build an airplane factory here, so they not only rebuild this Maria aircraft, but they can mass produce it and have it compete with the large cargo lift planes, or that could be like something Ukraine sells to the world as air cargo services, large-scale heavy lifting by air. So he could bring these kind of like large-scale projects here, and the Swedish Queen could have a mandate, like I say, for 20 to 40 years or for life, that she can override decisions from the parliament to keep the country on track so projects don't get started and stopped, and to actually build some real wealth here. So yeah, that's my thoughts. That a royal family here would keep a strategic vision, long-term strategic vision, and it would set an example. And probably third, it would attract investment. It would be a real cornerstone to, to sell that this is a stable country on the right track. Norway has a royal family, Sweden has a royal family, Denmark has a royal family, and people are investing a lot of money in those countries. They're stable, they're rock solid. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, I don't think the royal families suit America. George Washington, he did a revolutionary thing stepping down after his second term at the height of his popularity. In America, I guess the long-term steady body is the Supreme Court, and maybe perhaps the Senate. Senators have a more longer view, but and the Electoral College, that probably needs a bigger role of elders that choose the president, and override public opinion, because people's votes can be bought. You can buy votes here with a loaf of bread. So yeah, I don't think the president should be elected directly by the people. The people can elect these wise men and these electors who can act independently. I think that would be the solution for, America, to get the Electoral College more power. But I really, democracy is not, three wolves and one sheep deciding what's for dinner. We have a republic system in America. But anyway, I don't want to get onto that sidetrack. I would really want to hear people's thoughts on bringing a royal family here to Ukraine, particularly Swedish. If I advise people, watch the series The Crown, and then you can understand the role of the royal family. I mean, I really truly found it amazing that, like, Queen Elizabeth used to consult with Winston Churchill, and she kind of learned from him. And he had like a big vision for England, and then she kind of, and he was progressive to a degree. I mean, of course, for his time, he was progressive. And then she kind of, made this, progressiveness happen over many generations and through many prime ministers. She kind of gave some influence or some advice or even just a body gesture or just facial gesture about her approval or disapproval of something. And I thought that was pretty cool. And I think Ukraine, like I say, Ukraine really needs that. If Ukraine had the royal family, it would be a great example for women here, inspiration for women here, for Europe in general. It would bring investment here, and it would help eliminate the corruption. I mean, Princess Madeline, when she's queen here, having the backing of the Swedish government and the Swedish, society, she would speak very openly about the corruption and call it out. And get those people out of the government, bring it to attention without any, she wouldn't care. She has all the money, so there would be no, retaliation that could happen to her. She would be protected probably by, special forces and all this, so she wouldn't have to worry about her life too much. And even then, she would become a martyr, and then her children would take over the role. So, like I said, really, it's a good thing to have a outspoken Swedish woman here calling out the corruption, with the title of a queen. Well, I would really like to. I don't know. That's just one of my big fantastic dreams for this place. But I hope something changes. When the war is finally over, when Putin is gone and all the lands are restored, and there's a guarantee for the freedom here, that they choose some new way forward. Anyway, that's all I got. I'm almost home. Gonna eat something and get to work.